This is Peace Talks, the podcast that covers everything to do with competitive jigsaw puzzling. I once described Sarah Schuler as a unicorn riding on a cloud, and if you've ever met her, you'll know why. Her boundless energy and passion for bringing everyone, literally everyone, into the world of speed puzzling make her, in my eyes, the unofficial U.S. ambassador for the sport. In this episode, we dive into her long history with competitive jigsaw puzzling, from her earliest memories to her latest efforts to grow the speed puzzling community. Note that I sat down with Sarah before the World Jigsaw Puzzling Championship, so some important things have changed since we recorded the episode. Sarah Schuler, welcome to Peace Talks.
Hello.
Unlike most people I've talked to, your puzzling journey goes back quite a ways. But let's begin at the beginning. What are your earliest puzzle memories?
Oh my gosh. I have home videos on VHS tapes from when I was just a little kid. I always say the first puzzle that I did was those it was an oatmeal container style thing, those big long cylinders with the holes in the top, and it had a circle, square, triangle, and star. And I think that's a puzzle. It's a baby puzzle. But that is the first time I remember putting pieces in the right places, So started there as a literal infant. And then as I got older, I remember, and my mom tells me this story very frequently, I would get up early on a Saturday morning. I was very self-sufficient as a kid. I'd go get my yogurt from the fridge, and it was Saturday morning. My parents would be sleeping in, and I would have 6 100-piece puzzles on the coffee table. We had a huge coffee table.
You are the dream child.
Yeah, we would just have a bunch of them done, or I would just have a bunch of them done when my parents got up. So my little 80 and 100-piece puzzles from when I was a kid that I still have, not with me today, but still have them at my parents' house. I would do them so many times.
Wow. And this is from very early age. So you were
4, 5.
You were into puzzles really early. Now, is that because you grew up in a puzzle obsessed household?
Yes. So my mom's side of the family is very puzzle oriented. My uncle, which we can talk about more, he has a lot of puzzles, thousands and thousands of puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
So him and my mom have always grown up doing puzzles. When I was younger, I didn't go to daycare all the time. I went to my grandparents' house. I was very lucky to have them living close by, and they were retired. So I would go to their house, and we would do puzzles all the time there. Christmas, classic family thing. Everyone would gather on the table on Christmas Eve after we did the presents and dinner and everything. Most of the time when I was a child, I would get tired, and I didn't want to miss out on the action of the puzzles. So I would crawl under the dining room table and just fall asleep while people were doing puzzles
on the table.
Yeah, so it just it's kind of like when you think about college, when you're studying all night for an exam and you fall asleep on your textbook and you're just absorbing that information. You're not actually, but that's what happened with the puzzles and me sleeping under the table. So yeah, puzzles it's in my DNA.
Wow. Do you have any idea what your mom and uncle's story is? How did they even get into puzzles?
I don't know. I think my grandma and grandpa were really into puzzles as well. I don't know. My mom and my uncle are both really smart. My aunt also does a lot of puzzles too. She's not as into it. She is still really into it, but not as much as my uncle and my mom and I are. But they're all very intelligent. I don't know. It's just the thing to do, especially in Minnesota. Growing up here, it's cold in the winter and it can get really hot in the summer. It can get up to 100 and be 80% humidity. So you walk outside and you just hot.
Right.
So you spend a lot of time. Yeah. You have to find a lot of things to do that, when there's a snowstorm or it's raining or it's too humid or too hot, things to do inside that are fun and challenging. And it's just, I don't know. And then my dad hates puzzles. So, well, he doesn't hate them, but he does not like doing them.
Is this why Minnesota has such a strong puzzle culture?
I think so, for sure. We also have a lot of puzzle resources here, the probably longest running puzzle contest in the country, if not the world. Winter Carnival.
Yeah.
Saint Paul Winter Carnival, the best contest.
I've been there a few times.
Favorite.
I enjoy the heck out of that competition.
It's fun.
It's a great community. And it's usually done in a great venue. A lot of fun people.
Oh yeah. We just switched venues now to the Union Depot, and it's gorgeous in there.
What do you think about that versus the last venue?
The Landmark Center in St. Paul has a place in my heart forever. It was such a classic location, but we had outgrown that space. So it was going to be like 3 rounds of the exact same puzzle, teams of 4, 80 teams or more in each round. And we would fill it up in, 5 minutes. I mean, you have to be there on October 1st at 10 a.m. to register, or you will not get a spot in the Winter Carnival. So it just was growing that place. And the lighting was very uneven there.
Mm-hmm.
So
My
it was
major
tough.
complaint.
Yeah, it was tough. I love that place for a lot of other things. But the Union Depot, all the lighting was very even, which was
Oh,
really
so
nice.
pretty. Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful location. Just both of them are very historic St. Paul landmarks. Love them so much. I love St. Paul. So I love both.
Were your mom and uncle competing as long as you can remember?
Yeah, literally as long as I can remember. I remember it used to be held, I want to say like in a Holiday Inn basement kind of area, like a ballroom that was not no natural light. And I remember them, I think it was a car-shaped puzzle that was at the Winter Carnival one year.
Oh,
It was either that one or it was a circle with animals. They did both of those in the Winter Carnival, but I don't remember what year it was, but my mom had brought me with to like go around and see how other people were doing, because I was not on the team. I was not old enough. I was not good enough yet for the team. So I
how
would
old
like
were
go
you roughly?
around like 8, 7, 8. So
Hmm.
like elementary school, where it's like fun to be a spy, you know? So I'd like go around and look at other people and be like, oh, I think that they're a little ahead of you or whatever, which looking back on it, that would annoy me so much right now if some kid was like, hey, they're faster than you. Um, but I don't know, it's probably different when it's your own kid and you ask them to do it. But I like it was so fun. Just to watch everyone competing, and the energy is really great. And so eventually my mom's team broke up a little bit too. People had to leave the team. And my uncle and my mom were the only two left. So us and me and another family friend joined in, and we joined the family division. I think I was 15, the first, or 14,
You
13,
officially
somewhere. I was a
entered
teen.
competition somewhere in like middle school, early high school.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe 8th grade. So 13 sounds about right to me. Um, and then I competed all the way up until college. And then I took a few years off when I was in college. I had some like scheduling conflicts usually during that January weekend. So missed out on a few in college, but uh, jumped right back in after I graduated and haven't looked back. Really committed to it now.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
So before you went off to college and after you came back from college for a little while, was that all Winter Carnival or were you doing other competitions as well?
Yeah, and I wish I knew all the dates and everything and the lore behind it, but Minnesota does have a few other competitions that are pretty large. We have the AUSM Awesome Minnesota competition, and that is for the Autism Society of Minnesota. That's at the Mall of America in the Rotunda. So that one's been going on for a few years now. There was like little ones that would pop up in different places, like community centers or elementary school fundraisers and things like that. But really, like, it was mostly Winter Carnival and then the Mall of America competition as the two really big ones. But I don't remember when those ones started. It wasn't that long ago. Um, so really, it was just Winter Carnival for a while.
And was there a change in how you approached jigsaw puzzles when you finally were called up to the big leagues of your mom's team?
I don't know. I feel like I was more of a team player. I never like saw myself as being speedy alone. And I think it's just because I never had competed by myself until I was, like in my 20s. Like right when the pandemic happened and such.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know if there was really a big change at all that I can like pinpoint, but I mean, definitely now the growth is very different from when I was that old. I still, have some of the same things that I hate and things that I like to do. Um, like
Do
there's
tell.
the movie Wicker Kittens. I don't
Yes.
know. You've talked about that, I believe, on the show
It's a
before.
documentary, right?
Yes, a documentary about the St. Paul Winter Carnival one year, and it follows a few different teams, and it's mostly like 3 main teams that they're following, and then there's kind of like this 4th team that's in the background, and that's my team. So the
You can see a
family,
young Sarah Schuler in that
a
video.
very young me. I look the same though, so um, it's funny. You'll recognize me. And at one point, like in one of the two lines that I gave in that movie, the puzzle was just this like snow fort, I want to say. It was
Mm.
awful, just absolutely awful. And
Lots of
I'm like,
white.
there's so much white. And so yes, I still do hate when it's just a big swash of just the same color, with no texture or anything to like break it up. No, like, I don't
So
know,
you're not
getting
doing
lost in the
Karen
snow.
puzzle style, like acrylic see-through or
Ugh.
mirror all one shade.
I have done some, and I have not really enjoyed them. Like my mom loves the Crypt series right now.
Oh
She's
wow.
like done two of them
That's
in the
Ravensburger's
last
single
few
color.
weeks. Yes, Ravensburger single color, and she loves that challenge. I look at that and I go, no, no, thank you, I'm good.
So when you started on her team or their team, what was the name of that team? Do you recall?
Hmm. Did we have a team name? The family team? I don't know.
This is before the advent of team names and puzzling.
Yeah, I don't remember what our team name was. Maybe like the Grundy team or Grundy Schuler or something. There's some last names for you guys. Yeah, I actually have no clue what our team name was. The first team name that I remember competing under was with Leslie Mallory, who's a big Minnesota puzzler. The Mallory move, which we can talk about later. She is the maybe not creator, but the one that coined the term.
Popularizer. Yeah.
Yes, or my uncle did coin the term in that movie. But it's named after her, Leslie Mallory. We puzzled on her team, and it was a team of 4 women, and we were the nevertheless she persisted, and then we swapped team names eventually when we had a different team, and then it was always Puzzle Twist and Shout, which Puzzle Twist is a local puzzle brand, and Twist and Shout, come on, like it's the song, and yeah, Puzzle Twist and Shout.
While we're name dropping, you haven't said your mom and uncle's names.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Or Lisa.
Lisa, my mom, otherwise known as Sarah's Mom Does Puzzles on Facebook or on Instagram. So yeah, she's awesome. And then my uncle is Steve, and he is in the Wicker Kittens documentary as well. So he's much more featured in that than my mom and I are. So you'll get to see if you watch this film, which I believe it's streaming somewhere for free, so you can go find that. But you'll see his treasure trove of puzzles in his basement. But do realize that was, it was way more than 10 years ago now. It's probably 15 years old. So the space that we had to walk and film in his basement is now no longer.
Because if I recall,
there.
it
Floor to
seemed
ceiling.
relatively claustrophobic, racks and
Mm-hmm.
racks and racks.
Yeah,
So
in
you
Minnesota
found
we
more
have.
space in that basement?
Yeah, yep. In Minnesota, we have a lot of basements, and it was a full-on basement, like under his entire house, so the footprint of his whole house, floor to ceiling puzzles. I don't know how he can fit more in there, but it's amazing. It's what a collection, and a lot of them are, from the '60s, '70s. I mean, there's a lot that are older than that, but I love the good old like Springboks from the '60s.
Right.
And those older white mountains that are discontinued images now that are really hard to find. I mean, it's just a treasure trove down there.
Wow, it's like a kid in a candy store. Is
Oh
he
yeah.
is he good about like letting you come over and like do whatever you like?
Yeah, so I during the pandemic, I actually, to make extra money, I sold a bunch of Jigsaw puzzles, and so I was selling puzzles for him, and we were like splitting the profit on it. So I was doing all the work, but he would bring over like 20 boxes in the back of his SUV, and I would have them all gone within days.
Well, I'm sort of surprised for a person who collects as many as he does. I'm trying to avoid saying hoards. Like
It's clean hoarding.
I'm sort of surprised that somebody who has such an extensive collection has a set that they're willing to rotate out.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way he was going to be able to do all of them, and he has
Sure.
kind
I'm
of.
not sure doing them is the point at that point.
It's true, yeah. He's kind of retired from puzzling a little bit, so he doesn't do them as frequently anymore as he used to. But he's had a lot of collections. I mean, he collected stamps and just other, like the little Christmas villages. He has one of those. So he's had a bunch of different collections, coins. found change, like stuff you find on the sidewalk, you know, and you like find a quarter and you're like, wow, this is a lot of money. He had like a just a big jar of all the coins he's found on the ground. Just like the most random collections, which is really fun. So it was always a treat to go over to his house when I was growing up. He always had something fun to, you know, mess around with, or he'd let me like peel the stamps off of envelopes to put
Oh
in
wow.
the like and sort them. That love a sort. Love sorting stamps. That was like my favorite thing as a kid. So yeah, I mean, he definitely had some that he was getting rid of. He loves thrift shopping. So I think it was more about the chase and the hunt and the thrill
Mm,
of finding a good deal
yeah.
rather than the keeping of the puzzles. But he would blow all of those world records in the Guinness Book of World Records for like biggest puzzle collection. He would blow that out of the water. He has over 10,000 puzzles easily.
Dang.
Maybe not 10,000 different ones, but 10,000 for sure.
So when you were puzzling with your family, was there a time were you competitive? Like, did you want to be competitive from the start, or was that like it was a fun sort of annual thing to do?
I think I was like competitive with myself. Like when I would stay at my grandma's house in the summer and I would be there, and I don't know, I was like maybe 10 or something. So still like elementary school age. I would go in the closet and I'd pull out the 1,000 piece puzzle because there weren't a whole lot of thousands. We were big on the 500s.
Hmm.
And I'd pull it out and she'd be like, "Are you serious? Are we going to get that done?" I'd be like, "Yeah, we're going to get this done this afternoon. Like, it's going to be done by the time I leave here." So I think I was more competitive with myself than other people.
I
But
like that your grandma's a little bit of an enabler there.
yeah, she's like, but she was like, "Are you sure you want to do the 1,000 piece one?" But it's my favorite puzzle of all time. It's called Ballooning by Great American Puzzle Factory. They're not around anymore.
Hmm.
But this puzzle is so cool. There's a couple different things if you search Ballooning by Great American Puzzle Factory that'll pop up. This one is the one with all these hot air balloons in the sky. It's a beautiful, like maybe like a sunset or just a blue sky going on. It's an illustration, and there's all these cool hot air balloons that have different patterns and shapes. And one is like a mushroom shape, and there's one that has a big hippo on it, and there's one that's just kind of like Art Deco-y looking. I don't know. There's all this cool stuff. I have 3 copies of that puzzle, I think, because people heard that I liked it and then would find them at thrift stores and send them to me because I was looking for it and I can't find my original copy from when I was a kid. It's just like disappeared. Uh,
I see
but
one. You got me looking for them now. I see one with like a dragon and
yeah, I think there's a dragon in it. Maybe no, that one's the one where they're blowing them up, isn't it?
yes.
Yeah, that's not that one. They're all in the sky already, and there's like a little mountain range at the bottom. It's by Sue something is the artist. Sue someone, I cannot remember. Just such a beautiful puzzle. If you ever have the chance to do it, highly recommend. Uh, but yeah, I mean, we did so many puzzles, and it wasn't really a competition against other people necessarily at that point. It was when I got to Winter Carnival. Like, I was there to win. My first year, we got first place. And so I immediately was like, we got to win every year for the rest of our lives. And then the next year, we got second place. So we got beat. Classic Sarah move. Second place, Sarah.
Second place. So you were in it to win it the
Oh,
moment you
yeah.
were in it.
Yeah, when I'm doing a competition. But I can sit there and casually puzzle. I mean, I'm still going to go fast, but I'll be casual about it.
So for a while you were just doing Winter Carnival-ish plus maybe a couple of other things.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you were in the moment focused. Let's go. Did at what point did that turn to a, maybe I will do some other things to go, like, I don't know if it's practice, but I assume that at some point you were like, you became more focused on increasing your speed outside of the actual competition.
Yeah, you know what? I just remember what the other competition was that's really big in Minnesota, the Duluth Derby,
Oh yeah.
which was started as, I believe, a 4-H fundraiser out in Duluth, Minnesota. So it's about 2.5 hours away from my house. So it was a little bit of a hike to get there. And by hike, I mean a car ride. We don't actually hike to Duluth well, you can. But yeah, so I went up there and I remember one year Michaela Keener was there. and I had not met her yet. She is another person. Usually the people at puzzle contests are, the people that I knew were all more my mom's age or my uncle's age,
Mm.
not in the millennial crowd, not in their 20s. So I think I was like still in college when I went to that one. And we were doing sprints, so like 100-piece puzzles solo as like a between the events thing. And I was like, who is this girl that is beating me? Like, who is this? Because I need to go like befriend enemy her. And so I met Michaela and I was like, wow, she's fast. And I think that's kind of where I realized like maybe I need to practice more. And we ended up becoming friends, really great friends, and competed literally right before the pandemic, like maybe a month before the pandemic started, in Duluth. We had like at a cider place. So like, a casual competition where we came in and beat everyone by like an hour. It was really funny actually. It was just a great time. We had a good one. And we became friends, and she had just started her puzzle Instagram account. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, do you think like would you be okay if I took that idea too and started my own puzzle Instagram? And she's like, oh my gosh, yes, join the Puzzlegram. And here we are now. That's kind of how it started.
Such a huge community on Instagram.
Yeah, and back then it was tiny. There were not a lot of people. Puzzling, I always say in general, is a secret hobby. I put that in air quotes. You can't see me on the podcast, but secret hobby, because a lot of people do it, but people don't really like talk about it. Like, it's not like watching football where you're like, oh, did you watch the game this weekend? Like, you don't go, oh, did you do a 1,000-piece puzzle this week? But like, chances are your friends have done a puzzle within the last month. Like, your non-puzzle obsessed friends
Mm-hmm.
have done a
Mm-hmm.
puzzle recently. And they just don't talk about it. So, yeah, it was just kind of a secret hobby thing. And now Puzzlegram has exploded and it's not so secret anymore.
It has. It's hard to keep up. There's so many people out there on Instagram puzzling.
So many, which is great. I love it.
It's also where I am reminded about relatively how few puzzles I do by just the volume of puzzles that people post.
I used to post one a day every day. I have really, and if you follow me, you probably have, or maybe you haven't noticed because there's so many of us now, but I post so much less now. Uh, it was just getting to be a lot. There's a lot of burnout going with posting on social media. And I was burning through puzzles. I mean, I was doing like 3 a day during the pandemic, especially when I was on like, I wasn't laid off, but I was a consultant back in the day for IT. And so between clients, we would, get put on the bench,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like in, sports. And so I was on the bench for a few weeks, and between like little projects I'd do during the day, or if I had a meeting that, I just had to listen and absorb the information, I'd be doing a puzzle. So I was doing like 3,000-piece puzzles a day. Sometimes after work, I'd just sit down and do an entire 2,000-piece puzzle because I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't doing anything. I was living with my parents. So sometimes my mom would join in and my dad would just sit there and watch us and be like, I think that piece goes there. He was wrong, but sometimes he'd be helpful when we had like
But he's
fish
involved.
puzzles.
He's engaged.
Yeah. We always go, okay, Dad, come look at the puzzle when we finish. And we'd make him look at it. And he'd go, oh, yep, that's a puzzle. And then walk away. Like,
Yeah, it looks
we'd be
like the
so
picture,
proud.
all right.
Yeah, pretty much. But he's very supportive. But we can talk about that later too. Yeah, but just so many puzzles on Instagram.
So at some point, do you get kicked off your family team? Like
Okay,
at some point what happened here?
It's so sad. So obviously, like, my team was made up of much older than me adults. So I'm getting faster. They're starting to slow down a little bit. And I don't want to leave my team. Like, these are the people I puzzled with since I was little. And then my uncle decided to retire from speed puzzling and competitions. And our family friend also left the team. So then I got onto the team with Leslie, Mallory again, and my mom, Lisa Schuler, and another person named Nancy. And she's not on a puzzle Instagram or anything, but love her. And we puzzled together for a while. Again, it was still all people in my mom's age group. And again, I'm getting faster as we go. And my mom one day is like, you're not on our team anymore. You need to go find. I got kicked off by my mom in a loving way. It was a very like baby bird out of the nest situation. Like, go win this thing. And well, I mean, we were winning. We were doing really well. But like, go find a really fast team of young people and go have fun. So there was a lot of time with switching around teams. There's like a pretty big group of us in Minnesota that are very close, like 10 of us, that we would just make little teams of 4. And it was always very stressful because I'd always choose my mom to be on the team. And then we'd always have to find 2 people. And it was always very stressful to figure out which 2 people were going to be the ones that got to be on our team and who else would be able to find a team to figure it out. And it's just a lot. And I honestly have no clue how I found my current team. I obviously wanted to be on a team with Michaela, but she lives 2.5 hours away. And so we wouldn't be able to do as many competitions. And then she was, in grad school and getting her doctorate. So she moved out of state. So I had to find people in Minnesota that I could puzzle with on a regular basis. And I don't even remember how we found each other, but somehow I got my team that I have now and we're crushing it.
So your team now is what?
It is, we put the betch in You Betcha. If you are not from Minnesota or don't have any friends or family in the Midwest, You Betcha is kind of like one of our key signature phrases. Like, we got oofta, we got ope, and we got You Betcha, and then hot dish. So You Betcha is just like, oh yeah, you want to go out on the lake today? Oh yeah, you betcha. Like, for sure. A lot of those kind of things. So we got that team name, also affectionately known as the Betches, which I'm very interested to see how Worlds handles that, because I feel like with the accents, it's going to be very funny to listen to them say Betches. I have to be very careful whenever I say it.
In my notes here, I have I have various things to touch base on and transitions, like life transitions for you. And one of them is the Betchen area, or the Betchen era.
Yeah, the Betchen era. We're in our Betching era. That's so funny.
And what you said, ope was one of the words that is regional to you guys, which is one I hadn't heard. But you were on a team that was that started with ope.
Oh yeah.
We scoot right past you.
Yeah, me and Michaela and a few other Midwesterners, we were on a team together, and we also coined or used a very common phrase in Minnesota, the ope, let me scooch right past ya. Ope is like like an O kind of thing. You like, oh, or like you drop something, ope, or like when the Vikings fumble the ball, ope, they fumbled again, which we do a lot. But yeah, it was just, ope, let me scooch right past you is just such a Minnesotan thing. So we had that as our team name. But yeah, lots of Minnesota team names here. Lots of state pride for me. Love living here.
So you said that you competed just before COVID, and then you came back out. I'm curious as to how you ended up going to, like, what the path to nationals looked like. I mean, there was a nationals. It was the first one is in 2022. Were you immediately like?
Yeah, there was one even before that. It was just virtual. So in 2021, I think that's when we had the ope, let me scooch right past you. I want to say, that was with Amber Hagland Pagel. Hagland Pagel. I think I got that right. And then Kara from Iowa.
The fun fact is that I did a brief exploration into the connectedness of the puzzle community. So who was puzzled with who, and I got a ways through it, but I didn't finish it. And Amber was the most connected person at the time.
Oh, my mom might have something to say about that.
But it's not just based on published
official
data, right?
Yeah, not unofficial competitions, but my mom prides herself on being on the most different teams.
Is that right?
Yeah, she puzzles with just all these different teams, so many different combinations of people. I mean, we were doing all the switching before, when it was just our little group of 10 or so people that we were switching between. So she's been on so many teams. It's been crazy. And I kind of have now stuck to my team with some, if some of them couldn't come or something like that, or with nationals and worlds last year, I had to swap out teams because not our whole team was going. But
right.
I don't get to puzzle with too many different people now, which is okay. I love my team, but it is kind of fun to switch it up sometimes. But
Sure.
I love my team. Love them so much.
We
I
get it. We
sound
get it. We get it.
sarcastic.
You love your team.
I'm not. They're really amazing.
So was that team fully formed by the time you were heading off to nationals, the 2022 nationals?
We put the betcha and you betcha.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely were a team before nationals. We had competed together, I believe, but I don't think that we had decided who was going to be on the team. Maybe we hadn't become a team yet. See, it's very hard. My team lore, I don't know it. I don't know how we all came together. I'm just very glad we did. It was just, I don't know, it's like a Power Rangers moment. We all just fit together. But yeah, going into it, I knew Michaela and I were going to be on a team because we love competing together. And we didn't get very many chances. So in a national competition where we're flying there, we'll both be there. So we get to compete together. And then Robin, who is another person that lives local to me, she was on the team as well. Yep, Robin DeCare. Sorry, you are so much better at this than me with remembering last name to say last names.
Just want to make sure everybody comes along.
Yeah, so Robin's amazing. She was on the team too. We needed another Minnesotan on there, and then EB, Dan, they were on the team before. I guess her too. Gosh, there's so many different teams. And then Michaela wasn't there that year.
I was going to say that Robin. You have a full team right there. And I think that you were doing pairs with Yvonne.
Yeah, which was so fun. Yvonne and I never get to puzzle together in competitions. And it was so much fun being able to puzzle with her. Yeah, that was kind of a Mod Podge year, or hodgepodge. Hodgepodge. Mod Podge is the stuff you use to steal puzzles if you're that kind of person. It's just the Mod Podge group of people that year. And it was so much fun. Team No Snacks.
Yes.
Dear Lord, I should have maybe looked up my own history before coming to this.
I
Michaela wasn't there. When did Michaela and I? Oh, I guess Michaela, me at EB, and Karen at Worlds. Yeah, she couldn't make it to that one. That's what it was. That was the problem. Was Michaela couldn't make it to nationals that year, and so we didn't get to puzzle together. But puzzling with EB and Dan is fun because they're married. EB Karen and Dan Karen. They're married, so I mean that's always a fun dynamic. They're so goofy. And Robin is just such a sweetheart, and she is super fast too. And I also don't get to puzzle with her too much anymore now that I have like my set team here in Minnesota. But that was so much fun. Oh, those puzzles were hard at nationals that year too.
How did you get connected with EB and Dan? Like Robin and I sort of understand.
Yeah, EB and Dan have Puzzle Free or Die as their Instagram account. And I think we just became friends from there.
Is there in New Hampshire?
Yes. I think they're in Connecticut now, or they are in Connecticut now, but they were there, which I didn't know, like the state motto, is it live free or die? Yeah. Very aggressive. So their puzzling was really funny, and they used to do like beer pairings with their puzzles. So they would go out to local breweries and pair beer with a puzzle.
I don't know what to say about that. Sounds amazing.
I feel like I need to pick that up now that breweries are like my main gig right now.
Yeah. So but when you went to the first nationals, did it feel different from like the Saint Paul and competitions that you did around there, or is it basically like in some ways it's smaller, right? Like,
yeah, it was smaller in like scale. There was a lot less people at nationals than there were at Winter Carnival. But Winter Carnival is also mostly in the past. Now it's a lot different. It's evolved. But in the past, it was mostly just Minnesotans that wanted to go do a puzzle contest. It wasn't like, hey, here are all the top stars from across the country. Here are all the speedy puzzlers. Like, it wasn't as much of a race contest as it was like a fun thing to do for most of the people there. Whereas nationals is like, you're flying across the country to go to this contest and you want to win. I mean, I always wanted to win at Winter Carnival, but it just was just a total different group of people. So I think that was like my first in-person, like really serious competition. It was so much fun. And I got to meet so many people for the first time that I didn't, like, I've been friends with these people on Puzzlegram for 3 years and had never seen them in real life. or knew them. I, in my mind, a lot of people know this about me that talk to me on Instagram and such, but for a while, everyone in my mind, because no one really posted pictures of themselves in early puzzle Instagram. Like there weren't a
Mm.
lot of people showing their face necessarily. So everyone in my mind was between like the ages of like 20 and 35. And then I was like, oh, wait, you're 50 and you're my best friend. But that's okay. Cause it's like, you know what? Like puzzle is just such a, it crosses all of the generations. Like it's perfect for everyone.
Yeah.
So, but that always cracks me up. I was like, oh, not everyone is the same age as me here. I'm a baby, which referred to a lot as the youngest one in a lot of circles. But now there's a new generation coming up
I
behind
was
me.
going to
So
say,
that's great.
there's a whole
Yeah.
bunch of people behind you now.
Mm-hmm.
You came in third in the individuals that first year. How did you feel? Like,
Yeah.
did you feel like, I don't know, you said you hadn't done a lot of individual competitions in general. So did you have a sense of like where you were, and was that
Yeah.
better or
But
worse than you had hoped you would do?
yeah, by that time, I knew that I was fast individually because of Jonathan's contest. So kind of backtracking a little bit, uh, pandemic hits. I had just started my puzzle Instagram right before it, like maybe 2 weeks before it happened, before like all the shutdowns happened, that first round. And so puzzles blew up over that time period. Jonathan Clough starts hosting the speedpuzzling.com or speedpuzzle.com,
Speed puzzling.
speedpuzzling.com,
Mhm.
speedpuzzling.com contests. And I start entering those sometimes as a pair with my mom, sometimes with Michaela, by myself, different things. Whatever I like following the guidelines, about staying in your pod or whatever we were calling the
Oh
groups of
yeah.
people that
Right.
you were
Right.
allowed to be in your bubble. What was it? I don't remember what the words were. This is
People
like
use a lot
ancient
of phrases.
history
Both
now.
of those were okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so your little family group, which was just me, my mom, and my dad mostly. I actually didn't see anyone at all during COVID. I was so good at social distancing because I was puzzle distancing. Don't talk to
Right.
me. Don't hang out with me. I'm doing a puzzle. But anyway, I digress.
It's funny. You
So,
seem like such a people person
oh, I am
that
100%.
I'm sort of surprised that puzzling can consume you so much.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why my Instagram and why I think I got not necessarily like super popular so quickly, but why I like connected with people on there so quickly is because I needed an outlet for my like extrovertedness to go somewhere, and it wasn't to my parents and my dog at the time or my cat. Like I see them all the time, and just like building those connections through puzzling with other people where we could do something together but not together. We could both work on our own puzzles and have completely different puzzles, or work on the same puzzle at the same time, but we'd have that shared experience together that we could talk about while
Mhm.
we were doing it from afar. And I think it's a lot easier to do that than like watch a football game with someone over FaceTime.
Right.
You can't really do that. Uh, well, you can, but it's much harder because you're yelling at the TV, you're paying attention to that, and not the person. Whereas puzzling, like you're just busy with your hands and like a portion of your brain. Whereas you can like look up and watch and talk to someone, have a conversation, go back down and puzzle more. Or while you're flipping pieces over, you don't really have to pay attention to what you're doing as much. Yeah, so that's where I was getting all my social interaction from, was from puzzling with other people
Yeah.
virtually.
So I interrupted your flow there. You were talking about how you could sort of progress through the COVID era, and were learning it, getting some experience with your speed.
Yeah, so I was entering all of Jonathan's competitions, and he wasn't having a ton like he does now, but it was still more than I had ever participated in my entire life. There was at least one a month, which was amazing,
Yeah.
usually more. And there were little challenges that were popping up on Instagram where people were, like puzzle companies were sending us puzzles to try, which I was like in shock that a puzzle company would want to send me a puzzle for free,
Right.
which still shocks me today that I can, like I get all these puzzles from puzzle companies. It's so cool. Influencer lifestyle, which I always like hated calling myself that, but there's no other really way to call it. But I was doing Jonathan's contest, so I knew I was getting faster. I was doing these smaller competitions with friends on Instagram, knew I was pretty fast. So going into nationals, my one goal, which I don't know if she knows this, but my one goal was to beat Karen. Karen puzzles. That was my only goal. And I'm like, I know I can beat her. Like, I know I am faster than Karen. I can beat her. And what happens at nationals? Karen beats me. So that was honestly a little hard for me, but also that was such a Karen puzzle, like with all the solid one areas of color. She was so fast on that, even dropping the border and having to redo her border. I mean, she creamed me. Her and Yvonne, they just crushed that puzzle. So I knew I was going to do decently well, but I didn't have an expectation to be first at nationals. That was definitely not the expectation for me going into it.
So aside from not beating your, what I'm going to characterize as your arch nemesis.
My arch nemesis. Actually, I have a different one. It's Gray. Gray Rogers was my arch nemesis at the time.
Oh,
so I also wanted to beat her, but
okay.
I also wanted to beat Karen for like, I had not talked to Karen really before that time. So I did not know her very well. I just knew of her mostly. So we did not have the friendship that we have now. And so like, it was kind of easy to pit her as my like enemy at that competition because I just didn't know her yet. And now I'm like, LOL, that's so funny that you were my like enemy during that time. But yeah,
we have my wife and I have characterized the Reuters that way. Different league, like we are 100% not ever going to be a third as fast as they are. But you know, they're quiet. They can have very serious looks about them, and so they seem sort of unapproachable. And then my wife got she was leaving nationals this last year, and we live in Portland, they live in the Seattle area, so they were all kind of in the same area. And my wife got to talking to them. It was like, ugh, they're very nice. They're so very nice.
I know, like you can't hate anyone in puzzling because everyone is so nice. Like there's no one that's mean.
Have you thought about becoming the bad girl?
I don't want to be the bad guy. I mean, but in some of Karen's recent videos, you'll hear me. I mean, she very much toned it down and cut out a lot of things I say to my team. But my team and I, we trash talk each other the whole time. The whole time that we puzzle, we're telling each other just like, "Hey, hurry up," you know, or like, "I'm gonna quit the team. You guys finish this without me." Like, we'll be mean to each other in a loving way. But yeah, everyone in puzzling is just so nice. So yeah, I went into it just going like, I want to have fun. I was so excited. I was more excited to I feel like meet the people that I hadn't seen before in real life, rather than like get first place or something like that. My goal was not a placement, but more of I wanted my team to win because we were the first place team the year before in the online nationals, a different team layout, but I wanted to hold that title again.
And you did.
Which we did, which was so fun. Team No Snacks. That team name, another amazing team name, comes from, again, Wicker Kittens. This is basically sponsored by Wicker Kittens now.
I'm sure they're looking for sponsors.
I think they're looking for sponsors, like to sponsor Wicker Kittens, not Wicker Kittens going out and sponsoring.
Movie's been out for 6-8 years?
Yeah, probably longer than that by now. Yeah. But yeah, so in one of the scenes in that, they're talking about what makes you a serious competitor. And they're talking about when you see the teams that are breaking out their water bottles and snacks, they're not going to win. Like, they're not serious puzzlers. So our team name was Team No Snacks, which kind of backfired because it was a 5-hour-long competition. And we were hungry by the end of that. I immediately went...
was it 3 puzzles?
Yeah, 2 1000s and a 1500.
Right.
And not an easy 1500. It was blue and blue. Like, do you remember the blue puzzle from this year's nationals? It was very much like that. Mermaids, eels,
tentacles.
There was like some red. Yeah. A bunch of schools of fish that were colorful, but then would be like, 300 fish of the same exact, yellow body, orange fins thing going on. Like 52 flounders, so it wasn't easy. We were all probably pretty cranky by the end of that. But I remember the first thing we all went and did, it was we went out to the side, like when we finished, while we were waiting to get interviewed, and we were all eating like granola bars. We all had snacks right after we finished. That was our goal. It
Team
was
lots
like we
of
need a
snacks.
snack and we need to go to the bathroom. Like those are our two motivating features right now. Like we just got to get there to the end.
I
Uh,
remember when I saw your team name and I was like, oh, that's hilarious because I caught the reference back to Wicker Kittens, which I had seen. My wife and I went to this nationals. We had learned about speed puzzling the month before. And so we were like, well, this seems like fun. And so we ended up watching Wicker Kittens and all that. And so it was all fresh in my brain. I'm like, there's a reference to that movie.
Yeah, and our shirts were so fun. Robin designed them for us, and it had like a chip bag that said "no snacks" on it, with a little like the no symbol, the circle with the line through it,
Mhm.
and some puzzle pieces falling out of the bag. It was very cute. So it was like a chip bag full of puzzle pieces, and we each had a different glitter color piece, which was cool. Mine
Oh,
was
that is
purple.
cool. Nice.
So that was just a fun team and a good time, and those are some tough puzzles, but really fun. Nationals was just such a good experience.
And then you were off to Worlds. I mean, not right away. It was the next year, but
Yeah, and I don't remember exactly. I think the I was supposed to go to Worlds in 2021.
oh yeah.
I want to say. So that was when you used to be able to tag people out on your team, so you could have a team of up to 8 people.
That's
And
right.
so we had a team of 8, and I think that might have been when I really connected with Evie and Dan, because they were part of that team with Michaela and Amber and Kara, and all of us together. So that was probably when we started talking, but we ended up not going to Worlds that year. And Will, who is not a puzzler in the community anymore, he's in college, so he's kind of busy. That's kind of where that team came from, I believe,
Got it.
going into nationals. If I could have come up with that out of my mind earlier, that would have been helpful, but
We got
here we are
there.
now. Yeah,
Yeah, it's in there somewhere.
it's roundabout. Yeah, and then Worlds the next time. So again, I love puzzling with Michaela. Michaela and I never got to puzzle together in competition, so obviously she was on my Worlds team. EB Karen, again, another great team member. Dan unfortunately did not make the cut.
Oh no. Sorry, Dan.
Dan, we love you, but too slow. Just kidding. No, he's great. He's great. And
What was that about not wanting to be the villain?
I know, maybe I am the villain.
So you cut Dan. Did you make EB deliver him that news? That would be amazing.
Honestly, maybe Evie was the one that cut him. We probably all had a part to play in that. And we ended up picking up Karen. So that was really cool. And I think that was really fun because we got to basically have our time at Worlds just documented by her and her film
Oh yeah.
crew.
Yeah.
And I think it just makes the experience like that much more fun, that I can look back on it and have all this high quality footage of us just being goofy and silly and talking to each other, and the weird things I say when I'm puzzling that no one should have to listen to, but I'm so sorry, teams, you have to listen to it. It was just such a cool experience, and we did go into that going, we need to win. We wanted to get, first place. I mean, we didn't think necessarily we were going to get first place, but my goal was to be in the top 3. We said top 10, but
But let's be real.
but yeah, so we had scheduled practices. So we were going to practice at the Northeast Regionals, which was in Connecticut. And as we were talking about earlier, COVID ties right back in here. I was so good at social distancing. I hadn't had COVID yet. We were back out in the world. We were walking around, and of course, like the week that I'm supposed to go to the Northeast Regionals, like 3 years after COVID, was big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I get COVID and couldn't go. So our team had only done one practice puzzle together as a team of 4 at national or at Worlds. So we did it like the day before Worlds started.
Team no practice.
Yeah, team no practice. We were actually the Misfits, which we took a long time coming up with that name. And
It's a great name.
It was a really great name, and we're all from different states, so it does make it a lot harder when your team is spread out across the country. I mean, we had someone in California and Connecticut and Kentucky and Minnesota, so really like almost as far apart as you can have four people be.
Mm-hmm. In the
So
US.
yeah, in the US, yeah, obviously it could be further. We could have someone on like the International Space Station, but they might not make it back in time for the contest.
NASA, I need to leave.
Yeah.
Got a thing.
Excuse me, can you get me a shuttle real quick? Just gotta go. Can you just drop me off in Valladolid? No, it's not gonna work very well there, but if NASA wants, no, I don't want to go to space and do a puzzle. That would be awful. I'm scared of space. That's another whole conversation. That's a whole nother podcast right there.
I'm
But
writing this down.
yeah, right. Yeah, for later next year when you're running out
Fear
of
of
people to talk
space.
to. Yeah, puzzles in space. We got to Valladolid. We went to our Airbnb. Michaela and I were staying together, and we practiced there for the first time as a team. I think we did maybe two puzzles. We didn't want to like exert ourselves.
Hey,
A big thing, which we will probably talk about later, for me is I don't like doing puzzles right before a competition. Some people think it makes you faster, some people don't. And I personally do not think it makes me faster to do a puzzle right before I sit down for a competition. So
and so you're not busting one out on the table well to warm up or
no,
anything.
like my lead up to Worlds, I practiced a ton before Worlds. And then, like, I would say maybe like the 4 or 5 days before I left, I didn't do any puzzles. I
Mm.
just rested. I don't know. Maybe that's like a marathon thing.
I was gonna say this feels like a very sports approach to
Yeah.
puzzle practice.
I'm super sporty. So I'm not at all. If you guys don't know me, I am terrible at every sport. Very uncoordinated. All I can do is puzzles. And I don't know why I'm good at puzzles. That's all I got.
You have one
Uh,
gift.
That's why I've been pouring my whole heart and soul into this thing for the past 5 years. Like, I finally found something I can win at, or get second place at consistently. So, yeah, Worlds was just, it was so fun to, again, puzzle with a whole new team of people that I had not puzzled with as a team together and pulling, kind of superstars from across the country, getting it filmed in the beautiful Karen Does Puzzles way, and having all those experiences to look back on. So great. The experience I don't want to look back on is individual finals. That was tough. I went in with some pretty strong goals for myself, which I have now learned uh don't go in with super strong goals, but my goals were top 5 pair, top 3 team, top 10 individual. And those were like, I guess, the stretch goals. I mean, I wanted top 25 individuals, and I thought that, going into the 2 individual prelims, I was like, yes, I got 4th, and I was the only one that placed in the top 4 that hadn't done the puzzle before.
Oh,
So
nice. I didn't
everyone
know
else
that.
had done that Leaning Tower of Pisa city puzzle that
Right.
placed in front of me, which, I mean, they're all still very fast puzzlers and probably would have beat me anyway, but it felt really good to be up there and not have seen that puzzle before. Because, I mean, it does sometimes help you to have done the puzzle before. And then the semifinals, and I was like 2 minutes and 30 seconds behind Alejandro, aka King of Puzzles, the fastest puzzler still in the world. Kind of, playing a little game of cat and mouse there with him, chasing him for a while there where it looked like I maybe could beat him. It wasn't going to happen. But there was a while where we were neck and neck. So I was pretty confident going into those finals, seeded number 3.
Right. Oh, then what?
Yeah, then I opened up the bag and I was like, cool. So yeah, sorry, you go.
No, I was gonna say, so you open up the bag. What did you see? What was your reaction to it? Sounds like you knew immediately there was going to be a problem.
Yeah, so I opened up the bag, and immediately I knew I needed to adjust my expectation. So instead of top 25,
Wow,
I was
really?
like, yeah,
So
immediately.
you have a identified weak spot that you're like, I know this. So tell us what the puzzle was and
100%.
why it was not in your strength.
Yes. So one puzzle image that I am really not great at are photography images,
Hmm.
specifically of like landscapey type things. I, again, do not like doing a lot of solid color or solid areas of the same thing. And a lot of landscapes and photography, since it's literally real life. It's relying a lot on, a beautiful sky with maybe some clouds scattered across it,
Hmm.
or like a forest with a bunch of trees that are all kind of the same color,
Or a
or,
lot of water.
grass with water, or with wildflowers, or yeah,
Yeah.
water, a lot of like rivers and things like that. So I know that I'm not good at that. And coming into that final and opening it up and having, just a tiny sky, which was great. And then this just kind of like stucco building with like the terracotta roof going on. And then like a nice little patio that looks so relaxing to sit on, but it's all these blue straight line chairs
Hmm.
that all look exactly the same. And I just knew immediately. I was like, okay, Sarah, your new goal is top 50 and to finish in under an hour.
Wow.
Uh,
I mean, good
and
on you for having that level of self-awareness.
yeah, I think that's something I really have learned now, coming from that event. Like, you need to adjust your expectations based off of what the puzzle is, because you're gonna get puzzles that are not your strong suit, and you're gonna find your strong suit eventually. Like, you'll look at a puzzle and be like, I can do that one faster than everyone else, even though they're usually faster than me on X, Y, and Z. Which for me is like busy puzzles, not at the level of like Colin Thompson, which he does like the Curiosity Cabinet, or
Hmm.
like the ABCs. I don't know. There's some ones from Ravensburger that he does that are just so intensely detailed that you have to like look at the box, find the piece where it goes on the box, and put it in. But like collage type things, are like I'm trying to think, like if you went into like, if you made some sort of illustration of like elementary school art room, like where there's
Hmm.
paint brushes and there's like maybe a little paint water, like the brush water is tipped over and it's spilling on the counter, and there's, sheets of construction paper everywhere, and some artwork that the kids have done hung up on the wall, like that kind of scene I'm very good at putting together, where there's a lot of different patterns and colors and things going on, where some people get overwhelmed doing
Yeah.
that. I get really, I don't know, just something in my brain clicks with that. And I guess I'm kind of one of those people where in my house, it may be like kind of a little messy. I mean, my house is very messy right now because I'm running a business out of it. Um, but if you think in your head, it's like, okay, where did I put this exact item? I know exactly which area of mess it's in. So I think that maybe something with that, when I'm doing those really busy puzzles, helps me. Like, oh yeah, I remember this mouse was in this exact area of the puzzle, and here's like 4 pieces of him, so I'll put it where it goes. Uh, yeah, but I opened that puzzle up at the world's finals and I was like, nope, this isn't it. But
Did you?
still,
So did you like? I can imagine personally, like my heart would drop.
oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
100%. I was, my heart was not, it had exited the building. I was just like, nope, Sarah, this is, you're not going to make it. But like at the end, I was just, when I was putting in those last pieces, I was like, you finished this, you still did an amazing job. It was kind of defeating. I wouldn't say the whole experience was defeating, but I was the only one left in the front row,
Hmm.
which, like, by a long time, it was not a short amount of time, that I was alone in the front row, which is just kind of like, you can't see how everyone else is doing behind you because you're in the
Yeah.
front. And so it was just like a little bit, I don't know, it just felt like not embarrassing, but just like disappointment, I guess, in myself for not finishing faster than at least someone in my row. But I'm still really proud of my time. I think I did very well on a puzzle that I knew I was going to struggle with. Usually I would not get under an hour on that type of puzzle. So I'm really proud of my time. I don't remember what I got, like 56 minutes or 58 or something like that. I don't remember. Do you have
Sounds
the
about right. Yeah.
stats?
I'm
Um,
not in front of me for that
you
one.
don't need the stats. We don't need to know what they are. We don't need to know that time.
Oh.
But I'm really proud of myself on that time. And I'm just hoping, because I did really poorly on the world's puzzle from the year before when I did it at home. And it's a similar type of image where it's a photograph of row houses in London. So, like,
Hmm.
there's a light pink house, a light blue house, like a red house, and then a white one. And they're very pastel. There's just a sidewalk that's a plain gray sidewalk with some steps with the little spindles on the staircase railings. So just a very, like serene, plain kind of image, which I only want chaos. Bring me chaos. So yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that this year at Worlds, now some maybe insider scoop, or it's not an insider scoop because I actually don't know what the puzzle is going to be, but looking at the puzzle they chose last year and the year before that were very similar. So maybe
Hmm.
this year they're going to be like, let's throw something very different out there. Uh, and try something different. So hopefully it's not another photograph
Are
of
you the kind of person
travel.
who finds it, like, if you identify that kind of weakness, do you sort of practice through it? Do you work through it, or is it like a you'll do your best if you get it, but you're not going to work on that particularly?
I feel like I'm in the middle there. If I like have kind of, I know that getting first place at Worlds is not necessarily like, it's a very far chance that I would do that. And so right now I'm kind of in this phase of, I really want to do puzzles that I want to do and I want to improve, but I don't want to sit there and force myself to do, 10 landscape puzzles back to back to back. It's just, I'm not here to win, we're not winning huge prize money. It's not something huge. Like, I mean, I think it's amazing when I do get to place, but it's not something that I'm going to let consume my favorite hobby. Uh, I should probably be practicing more of those images, but gosh, they're not fun. They're not fun to do. And I would rather have fun than force myself to do something. I would have a lot more burnout, I feel like, with competing if I was forcing myself to train at a level like to go to the Olympics, which I mean, technically Worlds is the puzzle
I was
Olympics.
gonna
Like,
say, I don't know of a more Olympics-y
so
version of
maybe
that.
I do need to be better at practicing, but right now I'm just kind of in a phase where I want to have fun and compete and not feel as much pressure as I have been the past few years of, placing consistently in the top. Uh,
Is that self-imposed, or do you feel like
the
people?
pressure.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit of both. This is hard to like explain, I guess, but it's a lot of self because I know that like no one in the United States is sitting there like, Sarah better be bringing home trophies for us as the USA or something. Like, I'm not Simone Biles, okay? Like, I'm not, I don't have the weight of the world on my shoulders, but like there definitely is a lot of pressure as someone who has a lot of like high goals for themselves and
hmm,
kind of I have been not like a perfectionist, but I really liked to do well in school. Like, I liked to excel at work, things like that. I always was, trying to be the president of all the different clubs and join leadership boards and things like that. So I've always had like a lot of like self-imposed pressure, I guess. And sometimes it like when you're at a competition and someone's like, "Oh, finally I beat you on this puzzle." Like, I'm so proud of them, but then also I like go, "Oh, wait, like I need to do better, like I need to continue to do really well." When you just there's no way that you can possibly win at every single puzzle unless you're Alejandro and Christian. But there's no way that you can possibly win at every single image when there are so many different types of things out there. Um, there's just so many different types of images. You can't be good at everything.
right. And that's really the thing, is that the image and the person need to align for a to be like the at the top, because everybody has their weakness, so it seems. I mean,
For
Alejandro's
sure.
been taken down by Kristen a couple of times this year, so
Yeah,
uh,
which I love watching those
everybody's
too.
human.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about those two. They're pretty just like they're incredible. And they're both really good, like nice people. You can't hate Alejandro. You want to because he's so gosh darn speedy. But then you meet him and he like smiles at you and you're like, you are the nicest human.
Yeah, you don't even have to meet him. He just comes off as
No.
charming
Yeah.
in all the videos and
He's
everything
just so
I've ever seen.
sweet. He's so sweet.
Speaking of sweet, I think I've told you this in person, but one of my favorite moments in all of Puzzledom was at this Worlds, where you were being interviewed after, I think, coming in second in the Paris final with Michaela,
Yeah.
and um, Andrea Peng and her daughter Clara just finished, and mid interview you hop right up and run off and go and give them a big hug.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's just like, to me, that typifies what the puzzle community is all about. You're like,
100%.
I just want to go make sure that these people know they did an awesome job.
Yeah. And I think that's what's really great about puzzling is like Andrea and I, if you are like an outsider looking in, you would think like Andrea and I are enemies. Like, we are usually battling it out for, different things. We're always kind of comparing ourselves to each other. But I love Andrea and I want her to do really well. Like, she crushed it at Worlds this last year and she's going to crush it again this year. But she is just so fast. And with everybody, I mean, you're just so proud of other people finishing because you know that that puzzle was hard, or you know that like this part was a big struggle. And so when they finish that, you're excited for them. And we always say it's like the Great British Bake Off show. Like, you want everyone to finish and you want everyone to have a really good bake, but you want to get the handshake from Paul. You
Right.
want to be the one that wins, but like you want everyone to do well, because if everyone's doing well, it just makes it that much better when you get that win or get that place that you were hoping to get, or finish third or whatever. Like, when you're getting those small wins or those big wins, it just makes it that much better because everyone is doing their best. It's very, very like heartwarming
Agreed.
sometimes to be in
Like,
this competitive world. It's not, I don't know, it's kind of like I've been watching a lot of the Olympics because it was just on, and it's just like, even when people beat you, like they're all so excited for each other. They all train together, even if they're from other countries. Like, you want everyone to do well because you're all at this level of performance that's so high.
that's right. I want you to do well. I want to do a little bit better than that, but I want you to do really well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I still want you to do really well. I just want to beat you. That's me
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
Reuter sisters. We always joke about that. We have a group chat.
That's all
Everyone be jealous. I'm in a group chat with the Reuters. They're the best.
Yeah.
We trash talk each other all the time, but like in reality, like I want them to beat me and just have this back and forth with them. Where sometimes they beat me by a few seconds, sometimes I beat them by a few seconds. It's really fun to have that.
You said you worked really hard up to Worlds. What kinds of things were you doing in terms of practice?
Yeah, so the big thing with Worlds as compared to like doing a competition at your house online, where you're just zooming into the competition, where you have, whatever space you want. So I'm very fortunate that I live alone in a house and I have 2 bedrooms. So one bedroom is obviously my room. The other bedroom is my puzzle room. So I have a full-size dining table where I could fit like 6 people around it in this room, that is just for practicing puzzles on. So
That's awesome.
I have so much space. But then when you go to Worlds, it's like, here's your 6-foot folding table,
Yeah.
and then here's your half of that. So
Yeah.
it's very confined, and there are specific situations, or like there are specific setup. So when you're at Worlds, you don't have that unlimited space. You have a very specific setup where you have to have the black tablecloth on the table. You have to have your white piece of tag board on your table. I mean, you don't have to, I guess, but I'm pretty sure you actually have to leave that on there.
Yeah.
I know you have to leave the tablecloth on for sure, but yeah, you have to leave that all on there to have the same situation and playing field for everyone. Because like at Winter Carnival, all the tables look the same, but they all are slightly different.
One of my favorite parts of Winter Carnival is the rush to find tables.
Yeah, right. And you do run. You have to run,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
which is very unsafe, honestly. Like a few hundred people stampeding, it's scary. But the tables, I mean, they're all the same width, and they're all big circle tables or whatever. But some of them like have divots in them where they've been like stapled together, or one might have a big hole on it from someone ripped something out of it and a piece of the wood came off with it. All that kind of stuff. So at Worlds, it's all very regulated. Everyone has the same exact situation, almost the same exact lighting, uniform throughout the whole competition. So I think that one of my big strengths was I taped off my table. I didn't always practice on an actual folding table, but I made sure that my area was actually a little bit smaller that I was practicing in than what I was going to have at Worlds. So it would kind of be like almost like a treat when I got to Worlds.
Look at all this extra space I have. It's like a whole 2 inches over here.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah, 2 inches of space, which, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot of space when you're trying to manage 500 pieces, or at Nationals this year, 1,000 pieces in such a small area. So practicing in that confined space. And then I was doing a lot of thrift shopping at the time, which got that from my uncle. I'm a thrifter through and through. So any puzzle at the thrift store that was a 500-piece Ravensburger, if I didn't already have it or hadn't already done it, it had to go in my cart.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be, there were so many awful ones. I did. It was really rough, some of those. But any puzzle, it would go in my
because
cart,
the image was terrible, or
yeah,
because
the images
they'd been
would be like
handled a lot?
Yeah, both. Sometimes it would be like a really vintage, like By vintage, I mean like 1980s or 1990s, which technically is vintage.
Stop.
I'm vintage. But it would be, like something old already. So it's already, not holding up very well necessarily because it's cardboard. And then the image would be, the classic, a little field with some flowers and maybe like a tractor and the sky and a cloud, or like a fine art impressionist photo, which, oh my gosh, if I've impressionist, please, please, worlds, do not use some sort of impressionism painting because those little tiny brush strokes just look like nothing when you're looking at a single piece.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be all
It's
art all the time this time around.
no, please, no, please, no. That's my other one that I don't really love. Fine art is not necessarily my favorite unless it's one that I'm very familiar with that isn't hard to do. Like Starry Night, absolutely not. If it's Starry Night, I will walk out. There's no way I would finish that in 2 hours. I'd probably cry. I could just go under the table and hide.
So at Worlds, you finished 45th in the individuals,
Yes.
but you finished second in pairs with Michaela. And
Yes.
you finished second in teams with
Yeah.
Michaela, EB, and Karen. Those felt like, given the level of competition going on in that room, that feels like a pretty solid result.
Oh my gosh, it's so like that was so crazy. I did not expect to get second place in both of those competitions.
Did that balance things out at least a little bit?
Definitely. I mean, it kind of stinks that we ended on the individual final, or we didn't end on the individual final, but we started with that actually. That's how it started. So
Right.
It kind of sucks that was like, it wasn't bookended by the two. I feel like I might have maybe enjoyed that more, but I think maybe it kind of gave me like a chip on my shoulder or something, like going
I'm
in
gonna
to
do
the
this.
yeah, like I need to do better than what I previously have done at this competition, because that was not, I mean, it was still a great performance personally, like for me competing against me, but me showing my skills versus other people, like that was just not gonna happen on that puzzle. So going into that pairs final, and if you guys didn't know the schedule, it was that morning we started at like 9 a.m. with two 1,000 piece puzzles for the team's qualifying round.
Yeah.
Then we had like an hour break, and then it was the individual final, and then it was like another hour break depending on when you finished. But it was another little break, and then it was the pairs final, which was 1,000 piece puzzle. So 3,500 pieces in one day.
Yeah, and this is I have 7 events over the course of 4 days where
Yeah.
you were puzzling.
And I get to repeat this again this year. So I'm so excited for the 3 competitions in one day thing again. But by the time Michaela and I got to the finals, it's like 7 p.m., I think is when it started there. So it's kind of dark. And also your body clock is all messed up because you're not on Europe time when you're at home.
Yeah.
And so we were just giggling throughout like half of that puzzle. We were just loopy and having such a good time. I mean, it's still obviously trying to compete to win, but we were having such a good time, and then finishing so close to the ending where like no one was finishing. It was quite a while between Alejandro and his team member and us finishing. So yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, 14 minutes is what I have here, just to rub it in a little bit.
It's a long time. He could probably do like a 300 piece puzzle in that amount of time.
I want to skip forward to talking about the non-speed puzzling things that you're doing, so the non-competitive things you're doing. Even that's the wrong way of saying that.
Because it's still competitive.
To the other opportunities that you're exploring, but I feel like I can't pass up your second nationals.
Oh yeah,
because I feel like that is aptly named for you. And maybe this is we can sort of delve into second place, Sarah, but your second nationals, you finished second in the individuals prelim round behind Kathy Reuter. You finished second in the pairs with Lauren behind the Reuters. You finished second in teams behind Andrea's team. You finished second in the finals behind Andrea and Kelly Walter, and then you finished second in the finals behind Alice Rowe. Like, if you were shooting for something, like you nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, consistency. People not in the puzzle community, or maybe just like in general, people would look at that and be like, oh, that must really suck to just constantly be right there but not getting it. Just like being so close to first place so many times. And I mean, yeah, it does kind of stink that I didn't get a first place. But also like looking at it and being really proud of myself because I was consistently puzzling at such a high level that weekend. Getting second place, like to win, you have to beat me, which really felt like I'm tooting my own horn here because I'm really proud of that.
Yeah,
Uh, I
rightfully
look
so.
back on that a lot, and I really am proud of my performance that weekend, especially because traveling is just it's tough. Being in a hotel for so many days, and like you don't want to sleep because you want to see all your friends because this is the only time you get to hang out for a whole year with some of them that don't come to as many competitions. So you're staying up late, you're not eating properly because you're stuck in a hotel. And I'm vegetarian, so it's even less options for you when you're in a hotel. It's like burger, can't eat that. So I was just like tired and running on adrenaline the whole weekend. And so I'm really proud of how that all went, and especially with that really tough puzzle in the teams final,
Oh yeah.
the mandala one, which I love. Elspeth McLean, she does such a good job on her images. They're crazy cool, but oh my lord, if I have to do another dot puzzle, I might die. Our team was being held together by Don Rasmussen. She was just absolutely crushing that puzzle. Everyone else, Andrea Kyle and Lauren Kautz and I are all in a team together. And we were just basically sorting the pieces for Don. We were just like, here, Don, here's another pile that we've tried to work on and we can't finish. She was really like the heartbeat of our team during that, keeping us together and on track. And then Lauren and I mean, both of our strengths are very similar with the busy puzzles. So that puzzle that we got for the pairs final was so up our alley. We had so much fun doing that one. And I like to make up little stories in my head as I'm doing puzzles, like about the little things that I'm putting together. And so there were so many little stories I was making up in my head about the little
What was this
grapes or
puzzle?
whatever. It was like a Sweet Street
Oh.
confection. I don't remember. I think it was called Sweet Street. And it was very cute, like fairy tale land. Everything was made out of candy, very Willy Wonka esque. And then there was like hedgehogs and bears and little fruits that were, I think it was like I always thought it was a grape when we were doing it, but I think it was like a blackberry, like little fruits that were people. It was
Hmm.
very cute, very bright colors, a lot of repeating patterns in different places, like with cobblestones and the river and things like that. But it was just so whimsical and fun. I really enjoyed that puzzle a lot. And then the
Oh yeah.
finals for individual, oh my gosh, Nathaniel outdid himself on that one. It was, a hot air balloon puzzle. I mean, for one, for me saying that my favorite puzzle of all time is a hot air balloon puzzle, I do not like hot air balloon puzzles. I think they're boring and stupid most of the time because it's all the same thing. Like, how many times can you do a yellow balloon or a red balloon in a blue sky? Like, it's been done.
Feel the same way about turtles in water.
Yeah, there's some puzzles. Everyone has their, one puzzle that's like, I don't need to see that ever again. So hot air balloons are that for me. Like, I have done the two best hot air balloon puzzles now. The one from Great American Puzzle Factory and the one from Nathaniel and Ravensburger. And that puzzle was just so beautifully done, very mystical again, like another kind of fantasy land. Right up my alley again. I got really lucky on the selection on that one. And I had gone into that round. I was feeling really sick right before. I almost actually didn't make it downstairs for the individual final. My mom had to come up and like help me put myself together because I was not feeling great right before it. Like I was actually sick, and not like I was going to get people sick, but I don't know, like the adrenaline I think had just
Hmm.
caught up to me and the lack of sleep and everything. And so I was just feeling really ill. And I got down there and I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'm just going to have fun. And I don't know, sometimes that mentality helps you too, like not to, trip yourself up and get in your head about things. Just go into it with a open mind about where you're going to end up. And I think that definitely helped me there as well. And I had headphones in, which I usually don't listen to anything while I was puzzling. I wasn't listening to anything, but I had like loop headphones in. So the or earplugs, I guess, so I can
Hmm.
hear kind of what's happening. But I was so close to the announcers, I didn't want to hear them talking about me. So if I heard them in the mumble that sounded something like Sarah Schuler,
Yeah.
like if I heard that, I would just be like, they're just telling me how good I'm doing. Like they're just talking about how good I'm doing, like how amazing I am. And that was just like in my head. Yeah, it was awesome. And I really loved being able to compete with my team at a national level as well. It was our first really big national competition that we got to do as a team together. So that was just an added bonus. I love them so much.
All right. I desperately want to find out more about what you're doing on the way to Worlds this year, in no small part because EB and I are trying to take bets on who will do what, and I want secret information. But I rather pivot at this point
Yeah.
to what it is that you're doing outside of the world of competitive puzzling that's still in puzzling. So you had a job, you said, in IT consulting, and then you were sort of doing Instagram based, say, puzzling influencing. And at some point I looked over and you had seemed to have just jumped like both feet into the world of Jigsaw puzzling as host, consultant,
Yeah.
personality. Like, tell me, what was that journey like, and what kinds of things have you been doing?
Yeah, it was wild. Like no one, graduates from preschool going, I want to be a professional jigsaw puzzler someday. Like you say you want to be a firefighter or like a doctor or whatever.
Hmm.
Um and so when I was during the pandemic, I was doing that consulting job. Uh IT it's fun. I made good amount of money, which was nice because, it's hard to do, but I was just not feeling fulfilled. I was touring at Puzzle Warehouse for a documentary that was filming that never ended up coming out, which is sad, but it was about worlds. And so my team and I were there, and the people at Puzzle Warehouse were like, "Do you want a job here?" And I was like,
How
"Yeah,
did
I
that come
think
up?
I do." Honestly, I have no clue. I did not like it; just kind of fell into my lap, which I'm very grateful for. I took a pretty decent pay cut, went over there. I was so much more happy. Worked there for a year about, and then realized that I really wanted to kind of do more of my own thing with the puzzle community. But now I had made all these connections. I learned more about the industry as a whole and from like the back end, like the business side of things rather than the consumer side of things. And so I started doing consulting for different puzzle companies, mostly like Puzzle Twist, Elm's hand cut puzzles, and also completing the puzzle. Those were my three main clients that I was working for. And so I was doing social media stuff. I was helping them with finding
Got it.
influencers, uh, helping them pick out puzzles for catalogs, things like that. And that was so much fun. And one day I was just like, you know what I really want to do? I want to like host some puzzle competitions in person, like all these trivia nights and like yoga at breweries and paint your pet nights and all these fun things are popping up around here. Why not have like a puzzle contest at a brewery? And
Absolutely.
so one night before bed, I was sitting there and I'm like, I'm going to email 50 breweries before I go to sleep tonight. So that was the week of Winter Carnival. I was prepping for 30 puzzlers to come to my house for a party. My house is small, it's 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. So tiny. And I have dogs, and so it's messy. And I was getting ready for that, but then also like starting a business right before Winter Carnival. And I thought, like, maybe a few of the breweries would say yes and let me try it out. And I didn't really know kind of what the plan was. But I think like 30 of them responded yes.
Wow.
And so I went from having all of my social media clients, which I ended up having like 5 or 6 on and off clients
Hmm.
during that time that I was working with, to having to stop all of that to focus full time on starting Sarah Does Puzzles, which is my business now an LLC. Super exciting.
Nice.
Uh, where I host jigsaw puzzle competitions casually in breweries around the Twin Cities area and hopefully soon other states. But I've been doing those for the past few months. So February and last week of February is when I started them because you need some time for people to sign up for the competitions. But now I have at least 3 a week. Usually it's closer to 4 or 5. Sometimes like up to 7 in a week.
Wow. There's that
So
much demand for jigsaw puzzling? Is this different people?
yeah, so it's quite a few people. I would say there's probably like 300 different teams and pairs, or 300 different participants every month. Or I guess not different, but 300 participant spaces each month.
Mhm.
So sometimes there are quite a few people that come to multiple of them, but there isn't anyone coming like every night because it's not like trivia where it's free to just show up. You have to sign up ahead of time. You have to pay to enter. You also have to get a team of people together. I mean, you can
It's all
have
team
only one.
events.
It's all team or pairs right now. Just logistically, it makes sense for the breweries to not have one person taking up a table,
Mhm.
since it does take a while.
I'm struggling a little with the logistics of this in terms of, like,
Yeah.
the breweries have enough tables for how many teams did you say typically show up?
Yeah, so it really depends on the brewery. So I don't know how it is in other cities necessarily around the country, but Minnesota has a lot of craft breweries, and we do tend to have a lot of space. Minnesota is more like a suburb type state, especially the Twin Cities area. It's not like New York
Mhm.
City where everyone's kind of packed in and it's very densely populated. So we have like our breweries are all a lot of them are pretty large tap rooms. So my smallest competitions that I've previously hosted had eight teams of four, so 8 tables, and that would take up half of the brewery. Some of my big ones have up to 28 teams of four, so
Wow.
100 some people coming to the competition. So it's typically like once a month at each of my breweries. And then I have just, 30 different breweries that I kind of cycle through, adding new ones and, taking some out and switching around and everything. So yeah, it's kind of wild that I can consistently sell them out or be close to selling them out. For a while, I sold out every single one for I think like a month and a half.
Wow. How did you
Uh,
get the word out?
just Facebook. It's wild. I have done no advertising, like paid advertising anywhere. So my ticket like platform that I sell through, like sometimes, like they'll show your events when people are searching for things to do in Minneapolis or whatever.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I have not done like any SEO or search engine optimization for those that aren't in the industry here. Haven't done any like ads on Facebook or Google or anything. It's just having that community already. And then Minnesota just loves puzzles, and these breweries have pretty big audiences. So it's kind of a mixture of people coming because they saw Sarah Does Puzzles and people coming because, oh, I saw something at a brewery that I go to a lot.
Mhm.
And now it's just kind of created this community of there's quite a few teams that, either, they find their brewery and they come to that brewery's competition every month, or they want to try out different breweries. And so their team, travels around. And some people come like once a week, which I think is absolutely amazing. I love them. They keep me going. So thank you guys for helping me pay my mortgage and pay for my employees. I have employees. Well,
No.
technically contractors in case the IRS is
Right, the
listening.
government's listening.
Legally they are contractors. But my employees. So I have
What
two
is
other
your
hosts that help out.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it's not just Sarah Does Puzzles at every event. It's a Sarah Does Puzzles joint. Like it's
Yeah,
a
it started as Sarah's Does Puzzles does every event, and it turned out
uh-huh.
to Sarah does need more sleep. Because I mean, it's not like they're during the day,
Right?
so everyone works all day and then comes to these at night. So I'm working from like 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then I get home and it's 10:30 p.m. after I get home from the brewery, and I'm hyped up because I just talked to people about puzzles for 3 hours, and I won't go to bed until 1 a.m. because I'm just so wound up and like awake. So it got a little bit crazy fast with the 5 nights a week of hosting. So ended up hiring people that you've never heard of, aka my mom and Lauren. So they're my two employees. So what I really think is, because I don't know about other states again, but in Minnesota there are a lot of places that just host casual puzzle competitions, like libraries and things like that, and I love that. People are like, do you see them as competition? I'm like, no, I want more people to do puzzle contests where they are. But the difference with the Sarah Does Puzzles contest is you're getting either the number one puzzler in Minnesota, which is Lauren, not me, or she's the number 3 in the nation, or you're getting the number 2 puzzler in Minnesota and the number 2 puzzler in the nation, or you're getting my mom, who is also an incredible speed puzzler. She may not be, as fast as Lauren and I, but she is so good at coaching people up and giving people tips on how to, be faster at puzzling because she's watched and done it for
Yeah.
years. She has, like 25 years of experience in speed puzzling.
Do you and her and Lauren have like tips that you use to get people started? Because I assume that a lot of these people have not puzzled beyond the family puzzle table sort of approach to things.
Yeah, sometimes people like ask for tips. I don't usually give them out at competitions, just because like I don't know how I puzzle fast. Honestly, I'm not. I it's just like not something that I mean, there's obviously certain tips, like, flip all the pieces over, sort out the borders, look for things that are easy to do. If you are stuck on something, try to move on and try something else and come back to it. Move around the table. But my mom will give out tips before every competition, and it's like a different one every time. So if
Is
you
that
come
right?
to all the competitions she hosts, you're gonna have like a whole playbook of things that she points out and little details. And yeah,
Now I
it's
got to
just
talk
been.
to your mom.
I know, she's the best. She's seriously the best.
I did
Uh,
meet her once and she seemed pretty great.
she's pretty great. I
Yeah.
mean, I may be biased, but she's a pretty cool mom and just a pretty good person in general. Uh, but yeah, it's been so much fun to be able to host. And there are some of the competitions where all three of us get to be there because there's just so many teams. It's hard for one person to watch 30 teams. So
Yeah.
there is one or two competitions where it's all three of us at that. And it's just always a blast.
What's the format? Is it just standard, like everybody starts and is there prizes?
Yeah, so it depends on the brewery for the prizes because the breweries are usually the ones giving those prizes.
Oh,
So
that's
I
cool.
do a door prize of a puzzle or whatever,
Sure.
or a couple of them depending on how many teams there are. And then we hand out these black bags that have the puzzles inside of them, and we do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 puzzle. And everyone opens up their bags and finds out what the puzzle is. So it's teams of up to 4 people on a 500 piece puzzle, or pairs at a 300, depending on the competition and the
Mhm.
night. But it's been so much fun to see like people get into it. And at the beginning, when I was just starting, we would ask and be like, okay, how many of you is this your first ever puzzle contest? And half the people in the room would raise their hand and they'd be like, yeah, I didn't know this existed, but it sounded cool, so I signed up. And then they, months later now are, constantly coming in first, second, third, fourth, fifth, one of those top places at my competitions now that they found that they're good at it and they love doing it. So
Wow. Are you Sarah Puzzle Seed? Like, are
yeah,
you
right.
creating the
I
next
know
generation?
I have been focused so much more on like cultivating a community of puzzlers that I haven't been practicing as much for Worlds. I know that you said we were going to skip over that, but I haven't been practicing very much just with my team. But I've just been having so much more fun, and it's filling my cup so much more to get people into this and spread the joy of speed puzzling. Even if people aren't going to go compete at this, high level and go to Spain, it's still, they're having so much fun just doing it at home. And then they're like, oh, I went to my cabin last week for the family reunion and I made my family do a speed puzzle contest, like they had their family that doesn't usually come to the contest doing it. And I think that it just warms my heart so much, and it makes me feel so happy that this community is growing and the speed puzzling community is getting bigger, because the puzzle community is pretty large now. And I think speed puzzling is just going to continue to grow. And my next kind of phase now, I mean, I'm not going to stop competing. I'm not retiring. That's not the announcement here. But I know that the next phase of my life is going to be more of getting that community to grow, and focusing on like having people find the joy of speed puzzling
I feel like
and just puzzling
Val,
in general.
I feel like Val Coit made a similar pivot. Like maybe
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about that right, but she went from being sort of an icon of a puzzler to an icon of a puzzle community creator.
Yeah. She's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Val
it's
is so
good
cool.
footsteps to be in behind. So
Oh, yeah.
where do all these puzzles come from?
Yeah, I mean, it really all over. I use all the different brands. When I was at Puzzle Warehouse, I got a lot of connections, obviously, with the different brands, and so I get to use those now. Talk to all my friends at the puzzle companies and be able to introduce people to new brands at these competitions as well. So, like some of the smaller brands, I'm hopefully going to be using some Art and Fable ones soon because they
Oh,
just came
cool.
out with a bunch of new 500 piece puzzles. And like I did Oakland Puzzle Company, which is a really small puzzling company out of California. So I got to use some of their puzzles in my competitions, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, these are so cool!" Like I didn't even know this existed because they don't have them at Target or Walmart. So being
Right.
able to introduce people to all these other brands, or like I didn't know that puzzle pieces could have shapes like this, like when they do like a cobble hill or a sun's out, that have the wonky pieces. So it's just been really cool to try out all these different brands with people and picking out the images. People are like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I just know. I know that some of them that I pick are really hard and people can yell at me about it because they do. I mean, yell at me lovingly. They're like, oh, Sarah, I can't believe you picked this. I'm like, it can't all be, a collage puzzle, because collage puzzles, I feel like are the easy, or like the 9 squares are what I call them, where it has
Yes.
9 separate squares of
Love
different
those.
things going on. I love them so much. They're so fast, but not everything can be that. Sometimes I have to throw a really tough one in.
Did you ever put out a puzzle where you're like, oh, this is taking way longer than I thought it was going to?
Yes, there have been quite a few times. Some of them I'm like, I know this one will take a while. But I also encourage people, because sometimes it'll be someone's first time and they're, it's getting close to the 2-hour finish time where I have to leave, or we have to wrap up because the brewery's closing or whatever. And they're like, we're not even close to finish. I'm like, this is a really hard one compared to the one that you did at the last competition, or another puzzle that we might have at another competition. So like, don't be discouraged by it being hard. Like, take it as practice and go on to the next one, with this experience under your belt now. And now you know how to like tackle this kind of puzzle in the future, or what you did wrong or what you did right, and kind of take those and move on to the next one. So yeah, it's been fun to see all the different puzzles that people like. Because a lot of people have been complaining that I do a lot of dog and cat puzzles. There's just a lot of dog and cat puzzles out there, and they're really good.
It's true, but I've known you just enough to know that every passing dog is your new best friend.
Oh my gosh, I
So
love dogs.
I'm not surprised to find that there are a lot of dogs
Yeah,
being represented.
I love dogs. I also love cats. I just don't love them as much. I'm surprised my dogs have not made their presence be known on this podcast. I'm so sorry, everyone. You don't get to hear them. They're angels. They're not. They're wonderful, but definitely not angels.
Do you have a sense of where this goes for you? Like, are you hinted at global domination, or at least spreading into other states?
Yeah.
Do you have a plan, or is this growing organically? What's
Right
next?
now, since it's still, I mean, we're still, I think, in the first 6 months here. At the end of the month, it'll be 6 months of actually hosting competitions. And the business is still definitely in its infancy, maybe starting to become a toddler now. I don't know if that's actually like the terminology that we use for aging businesses, but
It's
we're getting
very
there.
scientific and well thought out.
Yeah. So it is actually 18 months. No, just kidding. I never know what those ages mean. I'm not a mom, so I don't know. But yeah, I think that there is definitely room to grow this to other states. I would really love to host a puzzle competition in every state someday. Like have physically gone out to a state and host a puzzle competition in every state. Right now I'm at 3 states. So we're doing well. We got New
Mhm.
York, Minnesota, and California. So
Nice.
coast to coast,
I mean,
I've
you've
done it.
covered the country.
Yeah, basically. If you just draw a line across, I did. But I think that there's definitely room for this to grow in other markets. And I don't necessarily see myself moving out of like casual competition. Like, I don't want to host something like nationals or even like a state championship. That just kind of sounds
I was wondering if you were
more like,
competing with Jonathan there somewhere.
yeah, I mean, I think that there are other organizations and people like Jonathan Clough who have that down. Like, they have gotten that. They know what they're doing. And I don't know if there's necessarily like a need for another large, more serious competition. I always say that mine are kind of like feeders to that,
Yeah.
or like a trial. Like, again, we're just going to go with the Olympics analogy. You aren't running your like track and field high school hurdles. I mean, some people are, and then going right to worlds, or like Olympics. Like, you aren't just trying something out and going to the Olympics next time. Like, you can't just start there. You have to, have these experiences at the beginning, where you're learning and you're trying to see if you like it. So my competitions, I say, are very casual. Like, there's basically no rules except for like, don't be mean to other teams. But you can bring flashlights, you can have headlamps. There are quite a few people that have headlamps. It's kind of hilarious and nerdy, and I think it's great. My favorite thing. Like, you can bring sorting trays of whatever size you want. You can use your cell phone to take pictures of the box and zoom in. Like, it's very
It's
chill. Like,
chaos.
Yeah, you get up in the middle and get a beer. You spill your beer on your puzzle. That happens every once in a while. Like once a month, I'll have a ruined puzzle from a beer. But that's okay because the people take their puzzles home at the end
I
of
was
the
going to
night.
say,
It's
it's your
part of the
puzzle at that point.
prize.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's their puzzle anyway. So it is unfortunate, though, when that happens. But people are trying it out. And then some people are like, wait, I actually really love this. How do I do more of these that are, more difficult? Like I want to try by myself, or I want my team to do 1,000-piece puzzle. And I'm like, hey, have you heard of USAJPA or speedpuzzling.com? Like I just kind of like funnel them. The people that really want to do these more intense competitions, we find them. And that's kind of, a goal of mine in the future is to somehow be rich enough to be able to take a team of young people, like high school, college age people, and put them together into a team and bring them to Worlds and kind of have like, I don't know, like a Mighty Ducks moment where like I'm the coach, except for like I'm not doing it because I was supposed to go to jail or whatever happened. As a Minnesotan, I have not seen that movie. I'm sorry,
Your background
everyone.
can be complicated. We don't know.
Yeah. I'll be more like a retired, a washed up has-been. I'm the washed up has-been that now is like, okay, kids, we're gonna win the gold. And I get my team together and I like coach them to Worlds. I think it'd just be so cool to do that and kind of bring up the next generation of puzzlers. Because I want puzzles to, go until the end of time. Like it's not gonna die out.
All right. On that note, we're going into the speed round.
The speed round. I'm ready. Okay.
All right. I'm just going to say some things and you tell me what you think.
Okay.
Gradients, pattern, or fur?
Pattern.
Illustration or photo?
Illustration.
Many of these are self-answering at this point.
Yeah.
Jumble or landscape?
Jumble.
Right. Round or square?
Gosh. Oh, square.
Wood or cardboard?
Hot take, cardboard. Ugh, don't kill me, everybody.
Individuals, pairs, or teams?
Oh, teams.
Virtual or in person?
Ooh, in person.
Ribbon cut or random cut?
Both.
Oh, that's not fair.
I'm sorry, it's both. It's random. Okay, random.
300, 500, or 1,000?
5.
Do you have a current favorite brand?
No. I love them most all of them. I can't say.
Where can people find more of you?
Pretty much everywhere. I have sarahdoespuzzles.com, which is going to be redone someday soon, hopefully. Mostly on Instagram and Facebook. Again, you just search Sarah Does Puzzles, Sarah with an H on the end. Sarah Does Puzzles on both of those. You can message me. I'll probably answer you back. Facebook, Instagram. I'll be at Worlds. If you're there, come find me. Find me on the YouTube. In some of Karen's videos. I don't make my own videos. Probably never will. People are requesting it, but she's got that covered. But you can find me in her videos, which is always fun. But yeah, that's most of the places. Or if you're in Minnesota, find me at the local brewery.
At least 30 of them.
Quite a few of them.
Sarah Schuler, it has been a delight, as I expected. Thank you so much for joining me on Peace Talks.
This has been great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Peace Talks. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at peace_talks, and you can send email to peacetalkscast@gmail.com.